Jazz articulation. Practice this, sound like a pro. Well, this is actually the truth. Articulation is a big matter in saxophone playing. When you get your articulation right, you get a more defined sound, you get a more defined timing. With articulation, the biggest aspects of jazz comes together, the timing and your phrasing. If you listen to all the great jazz heroes, they all have great articulation. You hear it in their lines, you hear it in their phrasing. It's just a big part of your jazz vocabulary. Coming up, I'll discuss 4 types of articulation and how to practice this. Get all the benefits of great articulation. Better timing, better phrasing, clear jazz improvisations. Towards the end of the lesson, I'll give written out examples on jazz standards how to articulate. Hi, I'm Søren. Welcome to Søren's online saxophone lessons. This is YouTube, so you are very welcome to support me by subscribing to my channel. Get the free PDF on how to practice your major scales. Go to my website, sign up for my newsletter. Thank you. Let's get on with the video. The timing of saxophone playing is executed in 2 places. One is fingers. The second one is your tongue. I'll just repeat that. The second one is your tongue. While both hands and tongue is very important. The tongue defines the articulation. This is where you put the note on and off. You don't do this with your fingers. The fingers just pushes in the note, but you can actually stop the airflow with your tongue. This is where it gets very important. Get your tongue, get your articulation right, and you will improve all aspects of your playing right away. A small part of your articulation is also covered in your breathing. This I already talked about in an earlier video. You will see the link here. To give an example on how important articulation is, check this simple 2-5-1 phrase. It's only 8 notes, it's only diatonic tones in the major scale, no crazy stuff, it's just a bunch of 8 notes. First, I'll play this without any form of articulation. It sounds pretty dull. If I give it a bit more speed, you'll think, oh yeah, then it sounds great. But there's still no articulation. One more time, bit more speed, no articulation. If I play this with articulation, it'll get a lot of more power. So check this out. Slow tempo. Really nice articulation jazz feel. Faster and still with great articulation. You immediately hear how this articulation makes it sound like jazz. Coming up, a bit on how to articulate. The articulation actually comes from your tongue, moving your tongue back and forth, hitting your reed on and off. When your tongue is touching the reed, you stop the airflow from your abdomen to your mouth to the saxophone. So every time you touch this reed hard enough, you get a little break. When you pull back your tongue from the reed, you start the airflow on the tone. When you put your tongue on the reed, you stop the tone. To get this right, you will need to practice this in 4 different ways. You need to be flexible in your articulation to play all the jazz phrasing, all the individual forms of phrasing that all these players already played, but you want to get into your playing. I'll now show you the first of 4 ways to articulate. No articulation. Why I show you no articulation is because some saxophone players play random articulation. It's a habit they have gotten into just randomly hitting the reed with their tongue, make it a controlled movement. If you have learned any bad articulation habits, this exercise will help you in this. Playing the C major scale up and down with no articulation. Playing your scales up and down with no articulation at all helps you just keeping your tongue still. Move the air from your abdomen to your mouthpiece. A second exercise would be playing the major scale in thirds. We're just playing the C major scale and now we're playing it in thirds. Look at the following example. No articulation. And remember, take a big breath before you start playing. Practice with no articulation, just running up the scales. You can of course choose to do this with a metronome, but for now, the lacking of articulation is the focus. Always say, I want to do this with a metronome in tempo 60 or 100. Choose whatever you need to do, but the no articulation is for now the most important. If you want more tips on how to speed up your scale exercises, you should check this video I had made. Second exercise round coming up. The staccato. Staccato, what is this? It's basically hitting all notes, playing all notes short. You'll probably think that staccato, this will be a classical exercise. You hear a lot of the players in jazz play staccato. You also need it for a lot of big band playing. You need it for a lot of funk, pop and soul playing where you always need these very short notes. That is staccato. You need this one to get your articulation right. Staccato is where you put an accent or a short note on all the notes. Staccato is probably the most difficult of all four kinds of articulation because you have to move your tongue very fast. We just stay in the major scale of C and play exactly the same exercise as just before, but this time with staccato. Let's go! Doesn't sound that difficult, but when you have to speed this up, let's say you practice this for some time, you have used the 8 steps to get this up in tempo. So eventually you will get up in a tempo like this. Make sure you have your staccato chops down. Play this exercise, major scale to the 9th and back. We did the other exercise with the thirds. Let's apply staccato to that one too. And of course, you want to be able to do this faster. You have taken the 8 steps method and are speeding up your exercises. Now to the third form of 4 forms of articulation. And later in this video, how does good articulation really sound on a real solo? The third kind of articulation, I do not have a real name for it. Maybe you can help me here. Give me your suggestion on what you want to call this kind of articulation. A former teacher of mine called it potato. I'll stick with potato for now. The potato articulation is basically, if you have a row of 8 notes, you put an articulation on the first of 2 8 notes. It sounds like this. So you put your articulation on all the beats of the bar. So the 1, the the 2, the 3, on the 4, you all have articulation on the whole beat of the bar. We take this articulation form and play it in thirds too. Major scale with potato articulation in thirds. What I mentioned earlier, take the 8 steps of speeding up your technical exercises. Use it in these exercises and speed up your technique. Here goes. 3 out of 4 we have had the potato articulation. Later in this video is of course the example on how to play a full solo using all 4 different kinds of articulation. Stay tuned. The third articulation, potato, is done for. Let's go to the 4th way of articulating stuff, the jazz articulation. In jazz music, we want to have this swing in the sound. The swing comes in the articulation, do ba do ba do ba. And of course, as always, we make our articulation with the tongue. So in jazz music, we have a row of 8 notes. The second 8 note of 2 we articulate. The C major scale in jazz articulation. That's the C major scale played up and down with jazz articulation. Let's go on with the next exercise, playing the C major scale in thirds with jazz articulation. Using the 8 steps to get your speed up. Start slow, put the metronome in a slow tempo, get to know the material, speeding up the metronome, hitting your maximum speed, going back, going forth. Check the other videos on this. The fast tempo jazz articulation, major scale in thirds. Practice the 4 types of articulation. Use the 8 steps from the earlier videos to speed up your technical skills. Last but not least, I promised you to give a written out and sounding example on how articulation sounds in a real solo. I played a little solo on the common standard solo, which you can hear and see right here. The end. I'm happy you have made it. Practice all the great articulations. Get it into your routine and get this going right away. Get better right now. Check out my website for more in-depth material. Longer tutorials are for sale in my shop. If you go to my website, remember to sign up for my newsletter and get the free PDF on how to practice your major scales. www.sørenballegaard.dk. I will of course keep posting great material here on YouTube and on my website. Let me know if this video or any other video brings up questions. I will happily answer them in the comments below. All the videos mentioned in this video is linked down in the description of this video. Check the description, check the links and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And as always, if you're really serious about this, you can always contact me and maybe we can set up a Skype lesson. Thank you very much. Play music, have fun.